What's up guys, Andre here, and today I'd like to take a look at using Element with Vue. Element is a desktop UI component library for Vue.js. Think of it like Bootstrap but with Vue components. There are a handful of component libraries out there for Vue, with Element being one of the more popular ones with close to 30k stars on GitHub at the time of this recording. So let's go ahead and play around with some of Element's available components, and then we'll build out a very basic admin dashboard layout once we're comfortable. So here's what I came up with when I was just playing around with the components earlier on. So we'll try to rebuild this from scratch. Okay, so let's go ahead and install it. Let's take a look at the docs and installation here. We just have to npm install it. So I already have a Vue application scaffolded out using the Vue CLI, but I haven't done anything with it yet. So let's go ahead and install it. Okay, let's go ahead and use it. So let's check out the quick start. So it looks like it's importing a few things here. We have the library itself, and we have some CSS for a default theme. And then we have to use it. Let me just grab all this. And then let's go into our code. Let's go into our entry point here. So it should be under main.js, and let's paste that in. And we don't need this anymore. And let's go ahead and save that. So as you can see, it's rather large at 600 kilobytes, but there's actually a way to just import the components that you want. See, right now I'm doing the full import because we're just playing around here, but you can just import the components that you want. So you can just follow the documentation here. And that's really nice because you can save on file size, but for me personally, I tend to use Tailwind CSS a lot. But for the more complex components like date pickers, number ranges, and stuff like that, I definitely reach for a library. So knowing that I can just import the one that I want is nice to know. Okay, let's see what's available to us. So let's start with the layout. Let me make this bigger for you guys. Okay, for layout, let me just give a quick rant on layout. Every UI component library, whether it's Bootstrap or Foundation or even Element, they have their own way of doing layout. And although it's similar, there are slight differences depending on the library you're using. At this point, the browser support for doing CSS layouts is pretty good in all of the major browsers, and I highly recommend that you learn how to use both Flexbox and CSS Grid for doing layouts. If you know both of them, there is absolutely no need to use the layout portion of any component library. The advantage of this is that you have full control over your layouts and how they work. Also, if you're onboarding, say, a new developer, they don't have to learn how to use the layout in the specific library that you chose. So yeah, I highly recommend that you learn CSS Grid and Flexbox. With that being said, let's go ahead and see how they do layouts. So let's check this example out. So they have this EL row component and EL column, and they have 24 grid layouts as opposed to 12, which I'm used to, but 24 is fine. So let's go ahead and just copy this, and let's see how it looks. Let me just erase all of this stuff. So let's go into our app view and let's just use everything in here and space that in. So this should be just a full row. Let me just put some text in here. And that should just be a full row. Cool. There's some CSS here, so let me just remove that in here. I'll just remove that. And there we go. It's just a full row. So if you want like halves, we would do another column, but we'd split the span up into 12s. So that should be halves. And it is cool. And as you expect, if you want thirds, then just make another one and split the 12 into 8s, and so on and so forth. Cool. All right, what's next? So spacing. Yeah, if you just put prop with the name gutter and give it a value, then it will put some column spacing. Just go ahead and do that. It is on the row. So on here, gutter equals a 20. So that should put some spacing. And there we go, cool. What's next? Next is hybrid layout, means just multiple rows. So you can just make more rows and lay it out however you like. So I'm not going to bother with that. Offsets. So let's see how to do offsets. So yeah, you would just give it this offset prop and specify how much you want to offset it by. So very similar to Bootstrap. So let's go ahead and copy this row. Let's make another one underneath it. But let's only have 2 columns. So let's erase this one. And let's offset this one by 8. So if you can picture that, there should be 1 on the left and 1 on the right. 8. See if that works. And yeah, you can't see it, but it's right there because there's no margin bottom, but it's working. If you want margin, you can just put CSS. So if you inspect it, just to see what class it gives it, just make this bigger. Yeah, it just gives it an EL call and an EL row class. So you can just add your own styles in here if you want. Let's just do margin bottom, I don't know, 20, 30. Just so we can see what we're doing. Cool. What's next? Alignment. So it uses flexbox for alignment. So let's see how to do this. So let's go ahead and grab the 3 again, the 3 columns. So I'm going to grab this row again. So just so we have 3 columns. Put it down here. But let's make these 6 instead of 8. So it doesn't span the whole row. So we have 6. And if we want to use flexbox for alignment, we have to give it a type of flex. And then we can use this justify to justify accordingly. So the flex goes on the row. So right here. And let's do a justify center to see if that centers it. So we can do that. Save that. Go back. And it's centered. If you want it to the end, set it to the end. That should be right aligned. Cool. What's next? Responsive. So the responsive layout, again, works very similarly to Bootstrap, where you have, I think it has 5 breakpoints. Yep, it has extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. And I think the actual pixel sizes are right here, if you want to know exactly. So to use it, you just specify how many columns you want it to be at that certain breakpoint. So it follows the mobile first approach. So let's go ahead and set this up. So let's change this back to 8. So it's the whole thing. And let's change this. Let's take this out for now. Okay. So instead of span, let's set it to medium. So on medium breakpoints, we wanted it to be 888. So that would stay the same. But on small breakpoints, we want it to be in halves. So if we do SM6, that should split it in half. Okay, let's try SM6. Let's try that, and let's resize our browser. Sorry, I meant 12, not 6. I meant to go the other way. So 12 would be halves. So there you go. And after it reaches a certain point, it goes to 24. So just one column. Cool. So there are 3, and then small would be halves, and then 1. Cool. So the layout container are container components for scaffolding basic structure of the page. So we'll make use of this when we make the admin dashboard. But yeah, it just gives your page a certain structure. So if you inspect this, this is the one we'll be using later, but you can just give it these components. Let me just show you. So let's do another one after this. And this will be the L container. And then within that, we'll have, which one was that? This one. So an aside and a main. So EL aside. Just put some norm text in here. And then EL main. Put some lorem text in here. And then you'll see there's our layout. Cool. And you can nest containers and you can nest rows too. So one thing this doesn't come with is, like in Bootstrap, if you do doc container, it sets it to a certain max width and it centers it. This doesn't have that. You have to do it manually. So let me just show you what I mean. So if you want this to be centered, you just have to give it a few CSS properties. So let's give it a class of container, and then we can just specify a container like normally. So we can just do max width, say 1200, and margin auto, and that should center it. Sorry, 1200 pixels. There you go, cool. All right, now let's take a look at some of the interactive components. Again, that was just layout, but these ones have actual interactivity with them. So let's start with a basic button. So as you expect, here's how a button looks. And there's different variations of buttons, ones with icons, group, just as you expect. Different sizes as well. So I'm just going to put one in here. Let's work within here. Let's put it in here. So see how that looks. A button as you expect, and furthermore, you can do whatever you do usually in Vue. So if you want to listen for a click event, handle click, you can go ahead and do that. You can set the methods in here. Handle click and handling. There you go, cool. Now if you take a look at color, here is the default color theme, and if you want to modify that, I think there is documentation. Here you go. Yeah, here you would just overwrite the variables. So it says create a new style file. This is if you're using Sass. If you're not using Sass, you have to use the CLI theme tool. But I actually like using Sass, so let's try to change the color scheme here. So let's make a new file like it says. Let's put it in assets. Doesn't matter where. Element variables, that's Sass. And then let's just copy this. So it's just changing the primary color to teal, and then it's just importing the rest of the theme. Just paste that in. And then in the entry point, we have to import this instead of the other thing. So go back into main. And then instead of this, we just import this. And I think we have to, we have to import, sorry, that's the wrong path. It is in assets. Now we should get a different error. Yeah, we have to npm install Sass loader and node Sass. So npm install node Sass and Sass loader. Okay, see if that fixed it. And it looks like it did. But now you see our primary color is now this teal color. So that's how you would modify the color scheme if you need to. I'm going to change it back because the original scheme looks better. Okay, let's take a look at a radio button. So here's how you add radios, and we stick a V model on it, and the value of the selected one will be the label. So if we select this, radio will be 2. So let's do that. Let's put it right under the button. Let's do that. And then let's set a data property for radio, and I think it was a string. So if you set it to 2, then 2 is going to be the one that's selected by default. Sorry. Cool. So if we output that, you'll see that that's the way it works. So if I just put another div in here with radio, you'll see it switch. Cool. All right, a checkbox is pretty much the same, except it's just true and false. So we'll skip over that. Let's check out this switch component, which is similar to a checkbox, but is more fancy. So let's try this one. So let's just do this, copy this, and then we need a value 1. Okay. Just put this in here. And then we have to give it a value 1 of true. Let's put that in there. Yeah, so whatever you set here will be the initial value. So let's set it on first. And that will switch based on when you toggle it. Cool. Let's take a look at this time picker here. So let me just grab this. So it's time select. And you can see the options are in here. So it starts at 8:30 and it increments by 15-minute intervals, and the end is 18:30. And we have to bind it to a V model of value 1. Let's change that to date 1 because I already have a value 1. So let's do another one. And let's do that time 1. And I think that's just an empty string. Yep. So let's go put time 1 in here. Empty string. And that should do it. See how that looks. Cool. And just like that, we have a nice time picker. All right, let's check out the date picker. So that looks pretty nice. So it's just this EL date picker component. And we need just a V model. And value 1 is, it's just an empty string. Cool. We'll call it date 1. So let's make another one here. we'll just name it date1. And let's make it an empty string. And see how that looks. Cool. Looks like it's in Chinese. Let's do something on locale here. Yeah, right here. So here we go. Set it to English. Just do that. And then in the use statement, just set it as the second argument. Cool. So just import that in main. And then just destructure it locale. And then now it should be English. Awesome. Cool. Okay, let's take a look at forms, more specifically forms with validation. This library comes with validation built in using this async validator library. So let me just copy this form and just walk you through what's going on. So the form ends there. Just grab that and put it here. Let's just put it in another div. And let me grab, we need some state as well. So we need this rule form object. Let's put that in our state. Let's put it right here. And then let's grab the actual rules for each field. So right there, just paste that in. And let's also grab this submit form method. Cool. And stick that here. Okay, see if this works. Sorry, I need both of these methods. So let's try it again. Okay. Cool. All right, looks like I put the form in the wrong place, but that's okay. So as you can see, there's validation happening. And if we, I think it's a console log if the validation passes. So if it's valid, no, it just alerts. Okay, so let's see if it alerts if our validation passes. Okay, so there you go. So if you look at the form, EL form, we bind a model to it, and we also have rules for it. So the rule form are all the fields on the form. So rule form has state for every field on the form, and this gets updated as it's updated on the form. And the rules, as you expect, are the rules for each field. So if you want to get into more detailed about the validator, check out the documentation for it, but this is pretty straightforward. It's an array for each field and an object for each validation rule. So that's how you handle forms. Cool. So if you're still here and you want to join me in building out this admin panel layout, then let's go ahead and do that quickly. So I reset everything here, and this is all I have. So we're just starting from scratch, and we'll make use of elements components. So let's go ahead and start with this layout container, and we're going to do this one. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's going to be an element container, EL container, and we'll have an EL aside, and just put some lorem text in here. And then here we'll have another container, And then from here, we'll have a header. So header here, and then EL main. Main content here, norm 20. All right. So that's our structure. That looks correct. So let's go ahead and style this sidebar first. So let's go into our CSS down here. Let's make a new one for EL aside. And let's give it a background of 545C64. Let's give it a color of white. And let's give it a min height of 100 viewport height. That's just so it always spans the viewport height. See how that looks? Okay, looks good. This is a bit wide. If you give the EL aside a width prop, like this, not even a prop, just an attribute. I think 230 was what I had. So that's better, cool. Okay, let's put the logo in here. So I'm gonna remove this and let's put a div class of logo container, and I'm just gonna paste in the SVG logo. Let's paste that in. Cool, see how that looks. Okay. And let me just put some styles for that. I'm just gonna paste it in. Some padding and a darker color. Cool. Now let's add a side navigation, and there's actually a component for that, which we didn't look at earlier, but we'll make use of now. So if we look for our navigation right here, there are nav menus. We'll make use of both the top one and the side one, but let's go ahead and take the side one here. So custom colors, let's look for the one under custom colors. So right here, just grab that, all of this. So that would end right here. Okay, let's stick that in here. All right, see how that looks. Okay, that actually looks pretty good. And you can take a look at the docs. You can have nested navs, and that works nicely. Cool. And let's put a horizontal nav right here where the header is. So let's grab the other nav. So this one. And let's go ahead and grab that, the EL menu. Okay. And let's paste that in where the header is. So right here. I am not going to bother with indentation. Okay, so that looks pretty decent. There's actually a white right border here. So you probably can't see it, but let me just take that out. So if I just do this, it will disappear. Okay, cool. And I want this section to have a subtle gray background. So I'm gonna paste in some CSS. Cool. All right, now let's put in some breadcrumbs here. So breadcrumbs. Let's take a look at this one. And let's just paste that in the main section. Sorry. Okay. Cool, looks pretty good. Just gonna put a class on that, just so I can give it some padding. So breadcrumb container. And I already have some styles for that. Just paste that in. Cool. And now let's stick a table in here. So where's tables? Table. Let's just grab this one. So as you can see, the data comes from some state where the fields of the table are specified. So we just grab this. Right here is the table data. So let's put this in our template first. So right underneath the breadcrumbs. Again, I'm not going to care about styles right now. I mean indentation. And let me grab that table data. Let's grab that. Put it in our data. And let's see if our table renders. Cool, it does. And I'm just going to give the table some extra padding. I'm just going to put an inline here since there's already an inline style. Cool. Let's go ahead and add some buttons here. So, button group. Where are the buttons? Right here. Let's make use of these ones. So let's just grab this and let's put it underneath the table. So right here, and see how that looks. We can give that some margin if you want. So class equals button container. Just give it a margin top. Button container 20 or something. Margin top 20 pixels. Cool. And in my mockup, I have a form here, but we already did that. So you can just go ahead and do that if you like. And as you can see, this is coming in all nicely with not too much work. So I actually like the components that Element has to offer. They don't seem too styled, so you can easily integrate it with your own branding and your own design system. And like I said earlier, you can just import the components that you are using so you can save on file size. So there you have it, guys. We've managed to set up Element UI, take a look at its components, and be able to build out this admin dashboard layout with not too much work. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.